I don't know what happened to the poll everywhere. Also, tragically, X has a class this semester at 8 p.m., so I'll be doing the technology, so we'll be slower than we have in the past. So I apologize for that.
Does that mean it just won't happen at all?
So I got it on the screen, got it up on the screen today, so this looks weird to me. So I don't know if it's gonna work. If it doesn't, then just tell Olivia you're here. I hope everyone had a stellar winter break. We're really excited to be back for the most exciting semester of the year. We have a packed agenda for today. So let me figure out how this works. Like, I feel like there should be a mic piece. All right, so is there a motion to approve the minutes for last week?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I just skipped through the entire thing. Okay, so Amrita and Nathan have a piece of legislation to introduce. It's actually, you've heard this before, but it's basically the same thing. Again, but we've taken the recommendations from the senators, really gone around and talked to people, Dean Hodge, to really make sure that all of these things that were proposed, recommended before are actually feasible. So Nathan and Amrita, if you want to talk through that, and maybe a little bit of additional stuff that's in there.
Okay, well, like Robbie said, as far as the allocation of the money, it's basically the same as what the senators recommended last semester. Since then, we've been in contact with the 4 groups that we're allocating money to, as well as with administrators as far as starting the Student Initiative Fund. But I mean, that's basically the gist of the legislation that we're introducing tonight. Do you want to talk about the additional stuff?
So essentially the executive committee agreed with the senator's recommendations. And I think one nuance that's important to the legislation is that the organizations have to go through a detailed process when they are acquiring the funds. So it'll be based on, they will present the information about the products that they're trying to buy to the SA treasurer, who will then approve the items according that go with the proposal which they submitted. So for example, like EMS sent in a proposal for certain medical devices. So we'll make sure that when they say to the SA treasurer, we want to buy this X product, it's aligned with their proposal. The SA treasurer will grant the funds to that organization. And any funds that are not used within 2 years will be given back to the SA general budget. So it's really a detailed process. We're ensuring that all funds are used appropriately and that the organizations have the opportunity now to expand whatever it is that they're hoping to get out of this.
Yeah. And you probably all saw that we sent the legislation over the SA listserv. So if you have any questions about any of the more specific things that are in there, or just want to know more about like how the process been going, or like what stage we're in, just ask. But yeah, so this will be voted on in 2 weeks.
Any questions?
What's the, is there anything specific for money that's not spent? Does that come back to us? Do organizations get to keep a certain percentage to spend like next year or whatever?
Yeah, so like I said, after 2 years, any funds that are not used will go back to the SA general budget. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we imagine they'll be spent because all the organizations gave us very like specific things that they needed or what they spend the money on. Yeah.
So what happens, like, if RES were to do something that made a profit or whatever, because I know some of their, at least when it was reset, the idea was that they could eventually save money and then that would accumulate. Would that be considered differently from a surplus building up and then just going back?
I mean, as far as my understanding, and anyone else can step in if they thought differently, but we would just give them money and it was up to them to spend it. And like if they make money after that, then it's not really like in our hands. It would stay within the organization.
And I think some of the one, essentially this will go into their fund where students can like apply for that funding themselves. And so many of them I don't think will generate a profit, but if they do, like Nathan said. And the 2 years is kind of like solo programs like RES's, people will have time to apply for that funding and get it. So we thought 2 years would be a good enough window for that. Any other questions? Awesome.
The next up we have, this is next up we have Chris and some of the men.
You ready?
Go down to the bottom. I definitely use computer. Just give me like 1 minute. But Chris and the midshipmen can come up and start talking while this all works itself out.
Sure, okay. Good evening, I'm Midshipman Roos. I am going to be presenting the legislation here. I just wanted to thank you all for allowing us to have the opportunity and come and talk with you. I also want to thank Chris for all the help that he's given us. He's provided us with so much insight and support, so that's been fantastic. You're amazing, Chris. Look, it's magic.
This is, oh, it does work.
Awesome, it's perfect. You can go back to the beginning.
He doesn't know how.
It's my show.
Okay, we're not gonna.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so I'm Midshipman Roos, and with me is Midshipman Marquez, and we might have one other person. He's coming by now, but they're going to be helping me answer some questions. But first, I want to just give a brief intro to what ROTC is and what it means to be a midshipman. And I think that after I explain that and paint a picture of what we do, I think it'll become evident and clear why midshipmen are deserving of having on-campus housing. So, ROTC. ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps, and here at Rice we have Naval ROTC, which means we're training Navy and Marine Corps officers. And Navy ROTC here at Rice has actually been a long part of our tradition, correct me if I'm wrong, but since the 1930s. So we have a long-standing tradition, a long-time partnership with Rice. So we train to become officers, but we train to become a particular kind of officer, what we call an officer of the line. And an officer of the line is basically going to be involved in combat operations. So for myself, I'm going to be a future Marine Corps officer. So that means I can do things like be in infantry, I can do reconnaissance, artillery, tanks, that kind of thing. Marquez, as like a naval officer, he's going to be doing stuff like being on submarines. He's going to be on maybe destroyers or aircraft carriers, or maybe he could be a pilot. So think in the midst of the action, that's where we're going to be. So what does that mean with ROTC? Well, we have to develop a certain set of skills in order to lead Marines and sailors. And we need to lead them not only to succeed in their mission, but most importantly to preserve their lives and our lives. So we have to create a base knowledge here at Rice and in the ROTC program to create these life-preserving skills. And so how do we do that? Well, we have to meet in the early morning hours a couple times throughout the week, and we do physical training. We have early morning warfare seminars. We go through drills, all in the pursuit of creating the best officer that we can. And I think that's why that's one point as to why I think on-campus housing is essential, or would certainly help the midshipman experience, because it's only going to help create an optimal experience so that we can attend these readily and refreshed as opposed to having to travel from off campus. Next slide. Dramatic pause. All right. So, yeah, what else do we have to do? Well, we also have to be on call a couple times throughout the semester. We basically take turns standing watch at the ROTC building, and we'll be on call for a 24-hour period of time. And this is something that we don't take lightly. We have to log everyone that comes and goes, and we have to watch out for emergencies and threats. And most people, actually, I bet most of you aren't aware of this, but there are actually continually threats to military personnel and to ROTC units. And we've actually had to take certain measures to avoid possible crises. So it's something we definitely take seriously, and that we have to maintain a certain level of vigilance. So I also wanted to make it clear that we are, in fact, current members of the military. During the academic year, we're in the Navy Reserve, and then come summer, we are put on active duty when we go out and train with the Navy and Marine Corps and get some more skill set that we couldn't here at Rice. And it's also an obligation too. When we swear in and become midshipmen, we promise that we're going to dedicate at least 4 or 5 years in active duty, 8 years total if you include time that is spent in reserves. And I want to put this in because I just wanted to make it clear that this is the real deal. This isn't your high school, junior ROTC. This isn't just a leadership program. This isn't just something we're doing for fun. This is a program designed to create officers that are going to be leading young men and women. And so this is I feel like the crux of the situation. When I was putting together this legislation with Chris, I stepped back and I looked at what makes a group special that they deserve having on-campus housing. And I think if you look at it, there's 2 things. They're providing a service for the Rice community, and they have to live a different lifestyle than the rest of the undergraduate population. I mean, if you look at EMS, they, of course, providing a service, medical services. They have to be on call 24/7. Look at government officials involved at colleges or here. They deserve the right to be on campus because they providing certain services, and they're enriching the community here, and they have to be on call. Same for student athletes. And I think the comparison can absolutely be made to the midshipmen here at Rice. We are, as I've illustrated, we have to be here early in the morning, we have to train, so we're definitely different from the undergraduate population in that way, but we also have to hold ourselves to a daily regimen set forth by the Navy and Marine Corps. We are, in fact, in the military, and we have to obey certain regulations set down by the organization that we belong to. And as for participating and servicing the Rice community, we absolutely do that. We serve the Rice community, and we serve our nation as a whole with the jobs that we serve now, and certainly with the jobs that we'll be holding in the very near future. So the last thing I wanted to hit on was this is just the resolves of the legislations, the nitty-gritty details, but there's just a few things I want to highlight. Basically, before February 1st, we would make it clear who would have on-campus housing, and if a situation came up where a midshipman entered the program after February 1st, then they would be put on a wait list. So you might be asking, when is that going to happen? Well, actually, take my example. So I decided to join ROTC my freshman year. So I did the application process, and then I found out by the end of my freshman year that I had been accepted into the program. And so I said, awesome. So then I was sworn in at the beginning of my sophomore year. So that would be a situation where I would have then been put on the wait list for getting on-campus housing. So that was just a brief rundown of what ROTC is and what it means. I think we have maybe a couple minutes left, and we'd be more than welcome to answer any questions that you guys have. Yeah.
So, this is, anyone who ever asks for on-campus housing as a guarantee is going to get the same thing, with the exception of EMS, because EMS's reason for on-campus housing that this body approved was that it reduced their response time significantly than if they had to go and come and get us from their off-campus apartments. I do not understand why the various groups that have asked for on-campus housing as a guarantee over the years think that they are special from the rest of the Rice community, because I don't think there's anyone in this community who doesn't think that they're busy, who doesn't have to be here early or be here late, and who doesn't have scheduling obligations. So I don't really grasp that distinction. Athletes sometimes have to be here very early, and non-scholarship athletes don't have guaranteed housing. You mentioned people in student government. Most of us don't have guaranteed housing. Only a few college positions do. I don't have guaranteed housing, and I spend a good 20 hours a week in my office here. That's just how it works because we're all busy and we all have things to do. And I'm not really grasping why standing guard outside the police station is a necessary campus service.
Okay.
I understand.
No.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and that's something I thought about. It's it's absolutely true that everyone is busy and everyone has activities that they have to participate in. But I think the role that midshipmen serve and the service that we provide to this community is worthwhile of that. If it's justifiable to have athletes or other student officials, I feel like that's justifiable. I think I saw your hand up first.
Yeah, I just want to say, just to start out with, I am not supportive of this, but that's not because I don't think you are special and that you have very special things to do and that, and I have a high respect for that. But I guess my question is, does this serve a direct service to the Rice student body? And is your direct service to the Rice student body impeded by you having to live off campus? Because that was the question with EMS. It was a very it wasn't that we have high respect for EMS, but that's not really the reason we gave them housing. It was because their service was really highly dependent on them being present on campus.
Right. Feel free to jump in on any of these, but I think there's a temptation to draw comparisons between us and EMS and saying, who's doing more and who's doing what. Look, EMS wins that competition. They're absolutely providing an essential service here to Rice, and honestly, I don't think we can compare to EMS. I think we're really in a different ballpark of our own. I think a closer comparison would be to the student athletes, and just the fact that with student athletes, we're trying to create an optimal situation for them, right? We're trying to let them catch a couple more hours of sleep so they can hop out of bed and then run down and train. And I think that's very similar to what that's the essence of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create an optimal situation here for midshipmen so that they can just jump out of bed and then run down to the unit and do what they need to do.
And just to say a couple things about that, like you mentioned, the athletes that do get on-campus housing are the ones that are on full scholarship, right? Well, the ROTC program nationwide pays for tuition, books, and fees, right? So they do not pay for room and board. And the past couple of years, 2 years ago, there was well, before that, let me say that there are students that apply to be an ROTC and get into the program. A lot of them couldn't go to college if it wasn't for the scholarship that the ROTC pays. And a lot of them are from, middle of nowhere, Texas or any other state, and they would never be able to afford an education like Rice University. And room and board is about $14,000 a year. And a couple years ago, a generous alumni that was an ROTC here at Rice came back and gave an anonymous donation of $2.5 million for the ROTC and said, this is for midshipmen. I know the Rice midshipmen have it hard here at Rice, and the Navy requires them to be STEM majors or else they can't have the scholarship. So then we get to the situation of students that would never be able to pay for Rice or any other university that they attend to without scholarship help. When they're kicked off campus, the scholarship for room and board does not transfer over to off-campus housing. So if there would be that case, then there would be a situation where a student wouldn't be able to continue their studies. And I've seen that happen before, that they've had to balance work, part-time work, university studies, and the military training. With that said, we do compare them to as Mr. Henry said, we are more comparable to student athletes, but if you think about how many student athletes there are, there's a lot, right? How many, 3,500 students at Rice University, there's 10 midshipmen. That's much less than it's much less than 1% of the student population. So it's 10 beds a year. Now that's the biggest thing about that.
I have 2 questions. So, it's 10 midshipmen. How many of those at any given time on an average year would not have on-campus housing?
It really depends on your year, but I'd say maybe about half or so. Or wait, what was it?
How many would not have? Who would be off campus?
Off
Like
campus?
of the 10 midshipmen, how many?
It depends every year because every college has their own way of how they kick people off, depending on juniors, seniors, or whatever, that kind of thing. And we don't have midshipmen in every college. So there's like 3 or 4 colleges that have 2, another one that has 1, and then that's it. So, but every year we have maybe between 2 to 3 in each year. So those of you that from respective colleges sort of know we kick off. This year we have 4 freshmen, 1 sophomore, 3 juniors, and 2 seniors.
And is the major like impediment that you have to get here early in the morning? Is that like the major problem, or are there other things?
Well, the Navy requires us to be what they call Tier 1, Tier 2 majors, and a lot of that ends up being engineering at Rice. So there's a lot of midshipmen that do have to be here really. I mean, we all have to be here really early, but a lot of them don't end up leaving till 2 or so in the morning when we're all working on our problem sets. Or regardless, I know some of the other midshipmen are also other majors, and they end up working later on with other projects. But the point is, they end up leaving here at 2 and then coming back at 5, which is, you know, not very safe.
And do you know of any other universities that, you know, is this the precedent that other places have been? Are there other universities?
Yeah, actually, at some universities, they have housing set away just for midshipmen.
Like Notre Dame has their own house. It's like a college house, and it's like an honors dorm, but for midshipmen because their program is much larger. But they have like over 100 midshipmen in their program. Last year we had 45. This year we have 35. Our unit it's sort of been going through a downsizing, but we've had 10 both years, last year, this year, that are from Rice. The rest are from other universities. They commute.
Can we take like 2 or 3 more questions? So maybe
I'll
the
let
3
you
people
choose.
up there, 3 people up there hands up right now.
If you wanna-
Right. Yeah.
So how much, I'm just curious, how much did the passing of the EMS legislation play a role in bringing about this legislation? Did that pass and you saw, bam, there's an opportunity for other groups to get on campus housing and thus move on
Yeah,
that?
so this is how the legislation was born. Last year I'm a junior this year. I would have been kicked off campus at Jones. I actually got lucky. I was one of the few ones that got lucky and got to be on campus. But I was going through a lot of difficulty trying to get on campus housing because I wanted to create an optimal situation. And so I said to myself, okay, come next year, this is something I definitely want to approach. So then I went to Jones meeting, and Chris was there, and he was saying how EMS was putting together this legislation. So I said to Chris, tell me, I want to keep an eye on this and see how it goes through, and it seemed like it was receptive. So yes, it kind of influenced it, but the idea was definitely already there. And more than it, I mean, it definitely helped us write our legislation. So.
Okay, so this isn't really a question, this is just a statement for the people in this room. And I just want to point out the difference between groups on campus and ROTC, and that's because you might be serving your community for like 2, maximum 4 years, but they're going to be serving your community for the next like 8 and more. And you're looking at better, like people who are going to be veterans right now. And if you think that it's a special perk, people in the military do get special perks because it's a thank you. So I just want you all to consider that when you're voting.
So yeah, I know there's been a lot of comparison between EMS and ROTC, and like I wrote like a majority of the EMS legislature, and one of the things with the EMS legislature that I think was really important was like, illustrating the specific details of why EMS needed the on-campus housing. Like I remember we had a lot of questions on what is the time commitment. So like we talked about how it was 20 hours per week for administrative jobs, sometimes 2 to 3 24-hour shifts on campus. So like, I'm not saying I'm against this legislation or support it, but is there a way you could tell me maybe more specifics about what the requirements are? Like, is it every day you come at 5:30 a.m.?
Yeah,
How often are you on call for the voting? Because I'm still a little bit confused at.
Right. I think the second clause, if you could go back to, well, anyways, if you look at I think it's the second clause. In the legislature. Well, no, it's in the second slide. Anyways, it's that basically it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are the set days we're here, and that runs from 5:30 to 7 or 8. I think 5:30. Yeah. Oh, I see. So, okay. So 5:30 to 8, and so and then we have and see the thing is it's kind of hard to pin down exactly because we don't have to like log, you're just told to do it and you do it. But basically those are the set times, so that's definitely a concrete thing. It's at least 3 times a semester that we're on call at a standing watch. Just kind of depends on how many people we have. And so that's like specific. That's the specifics of that. And then, I mean, but you know, there's also other things that you know you can't really put in legislation that are extra. Like for marine options, we have every once a month we go out into the field and we do training. I know sometimes the Navy options, they have special seminars that they have to go to. So that's the best I can do.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, we gotta move on, but I guess, thanks guys for.
Yeah, and so thank you again for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, so that'll go for voting in 2 weeks. I guess the one comment I would make also is that basically with a lot of this housing type stuff, you know, the thing, the caveat I would say is that, you know, even if this is passed here with the majority, it's not something that's going to be enacted by the Dean of Undergraduates unless it's something that's unanimously supported. So the SA is not a forum to impose things on colleges. And so I would say pretty confidently that this is something that I would not go to the administration with unless it was very clear that all the colleges have basically endorsed this. And even, you know, this is something that when we went to Dean Hutch with EMS housing and transfer housing, he's very clearly said, sure, I'm on board as long as every single one of the colleges is on board with this as well. So I guess that's something I would just leave everyone with as well, is that this is certainly a forum to make changes like this, but it's not a forum to make non-unanimous changes like that when it comes to things that are inherently part of the colleges. And I just hope that makes sense with everyone. For everyone. All right. So Aisha is going to talk quickly about the calendar discussions. Why?
Hi guys, I'm Aish, and I just wanted to remind you guys from the last time I talked about the spring 2017 calendar changes. There have been some updates with kind of what our charge is now for the committee. Since then, we have now been charged with creating a calendar that aligns with HISD. So the different proposals that I showed you guys last time, we have to kind of scrap that and make a calendar that's just going to be aligned with HISD, and that's going to be presented at the Faculty Senate sometime in late February.
Sorry, what's the HISD?
I'm sorry?
What is the HISD?
Oh, the Houston School District.
Fourth largest school district, third largest school district in the nation.
Sorry. And the reason for this is a lot of faculty and staff would like to be with their kids who go to these HISD schools during that time, easier for childcare and wanting to be with family and things like that. So this is going to be presented at Faculty Senate, which then will be voted on there. But, so since the timing of spring break, we can't really change that because that's now the charge of the committee. The things we can change are when we start and then where the midterm breaks are going to lie, and kind of working around with study days and the time it takes for the registrar to kind of process grades at the end of the semester, although that's not in our hands, that's kind of what they have to deal with. But the thing I want to talk to you guys about is I know last time I came here and you guys really wanted to have the April break still there. But if spring break is now in the 10th week, then it makes sense to kind of have a break separating those 10 weeks at the beginning of the school year in February. So the question now is that would you guys prefer to have 4-day weekend in February, and then just keeping everything the same, starting school on a Monday, ending school on a Friday? Or if you guys also wanted the April break, then we would either have to make that 4-day weekend a 3-day weekend and do a 3-day weekend in February and a 3-day weekend in April. Or if we did a 4-day weekend in February and a 3-day weekend in April, then we would have to start school on a Wednesday instead of a Monday the week before. I just kind of want to hear some of your thoughts. Yeah.
So when exactly is the HISD break?
March 13th, so it's the 10th week in our calendar, instead of the 8th week, which is where it falls right now.
And you just listed 4 options, so can you go over those again?
Yes, yeah. So the first one is just having a 4-day weekend in February. The second option is having a 3-day weekend in February, a 3-day weekend in April. The third option is having a 4-day weekend in February, a 3-day weekend in April, and starting school on a Wednesday to make up for the extra holidays that we do if we do both February and April.
I think when we last looked at the Wednesday option, it was really messy, so I would just, unless it's like significantly made less messy, I would not endorse that. I would personally prefer the 2 separate breaks, but I think we should, if the faculty and staff are going to force sort of their convenience on us, I think we should make a list of all the other days off that HISD gets and see how many of them that we can get, because we should be getting something out of this, or at least expressing that regardless of whether students, I don't think we should just capitulate and say, okay, the faculty is going to force us to do this, because as much as they have the power to do so, and that's fine, we should still say what we think it should be, and that we don't think that they should just be doing this for their own convenience.
I will say that if we do decide, not to start on, like you just said, not to start in the middle of the week, then you have to give away something else. We can't just lose days of school. So I will put that out there. Everything has a consequence. Yeah, Megan.
2 things to consider. I think starting on a Wednesday kind of inconveniences a lot of people who are flying back from the break, especially if their parents work, in terms of transportation to and from the airport. I think that's something to think about, because you basically have to fly or move back in like on a Monday or Tuesday. It's really hard to get flights that are late enough if your parents work until 5 or 6 or 7 to get back. I think that's something to think about. And I also think, kind of in the same vein, for a 4-day weekend versus a 3-day weekend, if you are flying, like, especially since we're 10% international, and like a lot of people like live flights away at least, I think like a 3-day weekend is just not enough time to get home if that's where you're trying to go. And so having 2 3-day weekends, like for people who need at least like 1 or 2 travel days to get like home and back or wherever home is, I think like it just doesn't help them, right? Because it's only so I think like the 4-day and the Monday start is like what I would support because of those 3 things.
Alright, we can take like 3, 4 more.
So, right now, like I know other colleges, like they're still on winter break because their spring break is a week after our spring break. So is it not an option just to like move, just like start later and end later? Because summer break is like 3 months.
Yeah, that would really solve everyone's problems. But there's some rule in the trustee thing that we can't change the date of graduation, so we can't start later.
What?
Yeah.
But it's like, are we not allowed to know what this is because I mean, it kind of affects everything, like this thing?
Yeah, we've tried to move the date of graduation a lot to change it like a week later, 2 weeks later, but it's just, I don't know, it's just
It's in the
not.
charter.
I mean, is this like the black people can't go? Because that was changed. The charter used to say that only white people are. It's not like it's
So I think that's kind of happening.
Alright, guys.
If we don't propose a calendar, we're just not going to have a calendar.
We have a tax change. Alright, let's all say, we're imposing a new rule right now. You can always speak once I select you to speak, and that's after you raise your hand. So,
Okay, so I guess I'm going to sort of agree with B-Man's first point. In that, I mean, so is this decision, this kind of mandate coming from the faculty senate?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't do anything about it now, but is there a way we could, because it's just kind of baloney for them to like, bring up this big discussion with us and then after break just say, oh, wait, we kind of changed things even before we heard what you had to say. I'd almost rather like, don't fluff us up by
if
asking
I'm
us first.
understanding what happened, they got a fast one put on them too.
Okay, it's,
Yeah.
okay. Then we can commiserate with them. By who? Yeah.
Who's the other actor?
Was it a board? That's SE board.
Alright, good.
From a scheduling perspective, you're going to do 2 3 weekends.
Yeah.
we're going to be skipping 2 Monday and Fridays, or to accommodate with that, versus the following weekend, we're skipping Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. So from a from a missing class perspective, I think professors might be a lot more agreeable to skipping Tuesday, having us to skip a Thursday, Friday, versus skipping both Monday, Fridays, given how classes are played out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Just to the point of trying to get as much as we can from the faculty senate, going with HISD school breaks, there aren't many of them. I know because I plan to teach for HISD. There aren't many of them, and also it's not a good idea to try and do that. I feel like they wouldn't be agreeable to that at all. And I don't personally pay $25,000 a semester for my schooling, but I know many of you do. I would want to get as much schooling as I can, while I can in the 15 weeks, and so maybe not a lot of breaks.
So I guess can we kind of recapitulate? So it seems like what most people are saying is, okay, we're kind of unhappy that we give input on something and it was completely changed. I think that's one good thing to say. Number two, given the situation, people kind of prefer this 4-day weekend to a 3-day weekend, and having like the 4-3 break is just completely out there. Does that make sense to most people as far as what we should take back to faculty senate and worship? Okay. Are there, if you have a comment on that, this is a terrible thing to say, you can raise your hand and I can choose you.
I no longer support the 3-3 thing, the 4-day seems like good.
So.
You have to talk when you can do that.
Yeah, but I'm not.
All right, you too. Come on, guys. Let's act like we're all over 20 years old. All right, so thank you. So next, Trent is gonna come up and give a really quick update of kind of wrap the aftermath of the last time. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. So, as you know, our last SA meeting was the town hall, and that was a pretty fun time. Got a lot of good feedback, not just from you guys, but from administrators and faculty and staff who were there. We also have our sexy team on the Right Study U. Okay, what about that? Yeah, see over there. So that's exciting. We're definitely accomplishing a lot of our goals in terms of getting the publicity and kind of the involvement that we wanted. Next slide. So this was published on Rice News, and that is our 2-page kind of final report that kind of condenses all of our initiative and findings. We're also working on a much longer report. Both of these, this is currently accessible, and the appendix will also be accessible on sa.rice.edu. Here's some of the things we all talked about last time we met, and this is now what the administrators are looking at, the Board of Trustees has looked at, so it's exciting to get some of our bold ideas out there. Next slide. So based off of that, what we want to do is take care of some sharing and awareness raising with the first 2 points and share the video that we all got to see together. And then more importantly, in terms of the action we all aspire to see through this initiative, we're going to be meeting with the administration, Board of Trustees, hopefully on multiple occasions to really share with them our ideas and kind of prioritize the ones that matter most to the student body based on surveys, and also kind of which ones we can do in the short term, mid-term, long-term, cost-effective, cost-intensive. And from there, we want to just set up teams that can carry this torch. The ref team has to be a really young one, with the exception of me, so I think there's a lot of sustainability that's there. But yeah, Robbie and I were talking about this today, and we want to make sure that we build this to be a very sustainable conversation that we have every year, along with action teams that can carry on very specific functions, whether it's building out this entrepreneurial program or creating a database for connecting alumni, whatever it is. We want to set up teams that can really carry that forward. And then we might as well pass some legislation to kind of back up all that we've done and some of the recommendations we've come up with. So I'll be working with some people to draft that and introduce it in the next week or so. That's the update. Thanks.
so this is my favorite topic of the night. We're really excited to announce Austin as, well, no, we can't do that yet. We first have to announce him as our candidate, and then we'd like to ask for Senate's approval of Austin as our esteemed director of elections. So is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Great, so now we're really excited to announce Austin
Please put that in the minutes so that we don't have to ask about it.
as our new director of elections. Yeah, Austin's awesome. He's gonna do some really good work this year with some legitimate elections. So if Austin can kind of go through the elections committee, the timeline, all the stuff coming after that. Yeah, so this is the elections committee. This is like constitutional.
Hey guys, my name's Austin. I'm a freshman at Ganson. I'll try to keep this quick since it's almost 9 o'clock. But I'm really here to just run through what our election cycle will look like, and if you are interested in running for a position, how to submit your candidacy. So in the general elections, which will be happening before spring break, these are the positions that will be up for election. These include the SA executive officers, the officers of all of our subsidiary organizations, and also, most importantly, in the most heated election, Sammy Diallo. Okay, so our timeline. If you're interested in running for a position, the petitions will be available next Monday. And so the petition will consist of getting 25 signatures from Rice students, and on the following Monday, those petitions will be due, along with any campaign statements that you want published on the SA website. So the elections committee will put together all of those candidates, put them on the ballot, and the week after that, the ballot will come to an SA meeting for Senate approval. Also, on that same day, the campaign videos will be due as well. Then the following day, campaigning will begin, and that will run until the end of elections. And so elections will begin on February 9th and run to February 13th. On that Monday, there will also be a debate between the SA presidential candidates. And on that Friday, we'll publish the results of the election.
So I saw that one of the slides that all of RSVP's chairs were still up there. Was there a ballot measure passed last year that made that internal?
Yeah, we changed that. It should just be the RSVP check.
Yeah,
I'm like
just the check.
99%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll double check that. Are you sure about that? There's campaigning can start before the elections open? Is it?
What?
Campaigns always start before elections open, but check the whole timeline.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, there's no set specification for when the campaign needs to start. It just needs to be approved by Senate, whatever the campaigning period is.
So this serves as the public announcement of the elections, which must be done 3 weeks in advance. So we're holding a highly legitimate election.
So then there's going to be a couple regulations as well to be aware of. Some key ones are that the campaigning will be restricted between February 5th and February 13th. There will be expense limits. I think it's $100 for if you're running for the presidency and $75 for other officer positions. You can't campaign through email. There's a couple positions which also conflict with each other as well. So all of those regulations will be listed in the petition packets. Yeah.
Well, thanks. This is a really exciting time of the year because we have so much stuff happening, and it's just really exciting to see people grow and move on in their college careers. So, if you're interested in any of these roles, the presidency is something that's just precious. As are all the other executive positions. So if you're interested in any of those roles, feel free to talk to me talk to the team, because it's really fun. You get to do things like stand up here and make stupid jokes. So, yeah, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
Okay, so you got it.